This is our Disney News Hour, and many thanks for joining us with the news. I'm Shifarao Lakau. Do stay with us. The Ethiopian National Army Air Force has stricken the terrorist TPLF base in Maizabri. The western front of Maizabri, which was serving as a training and military command post for the terrorist group TPLF, has been the target of an airstrike. That's according to the government communication service. Previous airstrike on Friday targeted a training base and battle network hub of the TPLF terrorist group in Mekelle, the capital of Tigray regional state. Ethiopian Federal Police graduates first ever high number of personnel at Tolai Training Academy. Attending the graduation, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister Demeke Mekonnen has called on the graduates to intensify the effort which is dragging the TPLF insurgents to their demise. Demis Mukwege presents the story as follows.
Ethiopian Federal Police graduates 20 bot trainees at Tolai Training Academy on Saturday. The police forces that were graduated amidst of the northern Ethiopia crisis are expected to foster the defeat of insurgent TPLF. Attending the graduation, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister Demeke Mekonnen called on the graduates to repeat the heroism of forefathers in preserving law and order in the nation.
በዚህ ፕሮግራም በመደበኛነት ተከታተላችሁ ያለፋችሁበት የፖሊስ ሙያ ስልጠና በራሱ የሚሰጣችሁ
The training you attended in your academy is believed to empower your mind and body to defend your country from insurgents. Remembering you, Ethiopia is now at a time of critical juncture. I believe you will transform the challenges into opportunities in defending your country.
በወሰዳችሁት ስልጠና መሰረት ይህንን እድል ወደ ድል የመቀየር ታሪካዊ ኃላፊነት እንዳለባችሁ አደራ ለማለት እወዳለሁ.
Demeke says Ethiopia is now at a historic period which demands the inclusive participation of all citizens, particularly security forces. He therefore urged new police graduates to effectively discharge their responsibility which the government and people bestowed upon them.
ገናናዋን ሀገር ማስከበር ክብራችንን ማስጠበቅ የሁላችንም
Protecting our country's dignity is of course the responsibility of all of us, but you are at the forefront of this mission and we consider you as an emblem of our pride and sovereignty. I want to assure you that the government is ready to provide you all facilities which scale up your operational performance.
The federal police forces graduated at Tolai are said to be trained well given the current war crisis in the country. The forces are much anticipated in combating TPLF forces and taking the survival campaign to the next level.
Sudan coup is now underway as the military detains key members of the government. We are hearing reports that the Sudanese Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok is now under house arrest and ministers detained. The reported move against Sudan's Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok came shortly after the country's military arrested several civilian officials. Military forces in Sudan have moved Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok to an unknown location after putting him under house arrest earlier on Monday, the country's information ministry has said. We're going to stay on this issue, and here in the studio with me is our staff reporter, Alula Taklamarem. We're going to spend some time discussing with him latest developments unfolding in Sudan. Thank you, Alula.
Thank you so much for having me, Shifara.
Now we're hearing this latest series of conflicts in Sudan. What is going on in Sudan, and what are some of your observations in this regard?
Yeah, great. The social media is engulfed by the Sudanese military coup. That various international media organizations are reporting that the Sudanese Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok is under house arrest and the military force has taken him to an unknown location, and civilian leadership at the top ministerial level are being also arrested by the military apparatus. And Sudanese military also ordered restricted civilians movement in Khartoum. Khartoum International Airport is shut and international flights have been suspended as we speak right now. There were frequent protests in Khartoum and outside the capital of Sudan, seeking better democracy and economic reform. Due to this, it is predicted that the coup is being undertaken in Sudan will be between the pro-democracy group and the military wing. Reporters shows that there is a division between the civilian and military leadership. As we remember that Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok was appointed as a Sudanese Prime Minister following the ousting of Omar Hassan al-Bashir after 30 years of authoritarian government some 3 years ago. And this new leadership, the civilian leadership, was set to run the government of the country for 3 years. This was undertaken in August 2019, and of course the tenure of this new government was expiring, and the pro-democracy wing and the military wing of the Sudan were seeking for further reforms in the country, and Abdullah Hamdok is said to be unable to improve the situation in Sudan. That's why I guess a military coup happened into Sudan.
Okay, so in your view, where is this crisis in Sudan leading? Where is it going?
Yeah, it's hard to predict. Sudan's future political status seems to be unpredictable. The country has been in various challenges. The country shares a long border with Ethiopia, is still in dispute. There is a conflict between Ethiopia and Sudan around the border of the two countries. And the pro-democracy group calls for strike civil disobedience against the coup. And you know that the Sudanese Professional Association, SPA, called on Monday for a general strike and civil disobedience in face of a military coup. So when we join these two different points, the future of Sudan's political atmosphere seems to be unpredictable. The political future seems to be unpredictable. There is growing ethnic and political division in the country. There are a lot of protesters still now, and they seek better democracy, economic reform, to widen political space. So if we ask, will these all questions be addressed by the military coup? We don't know what will happen in the near future in Sudan, but the military coup, Sudan is, it's possible to say that Sudan, it's hard time for Sudan right now.
Indeed, yeah. So we're going to wait and see what's going to unfold in Sudan.
Okay.
Thank you, Allah.
Thank you. Thank you, Farah.
Now, moving on, this week the Ethiopian government is on an airstrike offensive against the TPLF traders bent on dismantling the unity of Ethiopia. The measures are taken against the TPLF's military training camps, ammunition depots, and maintenance workshops, among others. Hermila Aragawi tells us many international outlets, particularly the CNN, New York Times, and the AP, are getting it wrong when it comes to their reporting on Ethiopia. Take a listen.
This week, the Ethiopian government began a series of airstrikes that appear to be targeting military armaments of the TPLF, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, an armed rebel group that has been fighting the Ethiopian government and the Ethiopian people for about a year now. TPLF spokespeople and Tigrayan activists say the airstrikes targeted civilians, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Forget CNN, New York Times, or the AP when it comes to reporting on Ethiopia. They have proven to be mouthpieces for the rebel group and ignore context regularly. It seems their aim is to support the rebel groups in overthrowing the Ethiopian government, which would be nothing short of a disaster. But we'll get to that another time. All right, on the latest airstrikes, Reuters, which appears to be one of the more credible outlets, quotes two witnesses and a humanitarian source who says one of the airstrikes hit Mesfin Industrial Complex, a known assembly plant. The Ethiopian government also says another airstrike hit a military training center and a heavy artillery depot about 50 miles outside of the Tigray region's capital. Mekelle is a major city in Tigray. If Ethiopia's Air Force was targeting civilians, certainly thousands would be killed. It's clear by the numbers given even by the rebels' TV outlets themselves that the Ethiopian government is not targeting civilians.
ጎሬ ብሎ የተሰየመበት ምክንያት በዚህ በኩል ጎሬ አሁን አስተዳደር ወደሚከለው ላይ ግቢ የሚባል ቦታ ላይ እዛ ላይ ጎራ ብሎ ጣዝማ አገኛሉ። ጣዝማ አገኝቶ ጎራ ብዬ ጣዝማ አገኘው ማለት ነው። በኦሮምኛ ግን ጎሬን ዳሙ አርገዴ ብሏል። ጎሬን ዳሙ አርገዴ ስል ጎሬ አሉት ይባላል። ሰርቦ አረዶ ይባላል። ይሄንን መጀመሪያ እንደዚህ ብሎ ያስወጣ ይባላል።
ኢትዮጵያ ላይ ከተማ የሚለው ቃል ራሱ ሲጀመር ከተመሰረቱት 6 ከተሞች ውስጥ አንዷ የጎሬ ከተማ
Welcome back. You're still watching at this News Hour. The American author and environmentalist David Steinman exposes TPLF's evil deeds and its main misleading global allies like the UN. According to the author, TPLF is using Tigrayan diaspora and high-profile UN officials to misinform the international community about the conflict in the state of Tigray. Haptam Washagre has that story.
David Steinman is an American writer and environmentalist. Recently, he has published a book titled Money, Blood and Conscience about TPLF and its wrongdoings. The country he has picked for his dubbed novel is Ethiopia, Africa's second most populous nation, where Steinman served as a foreign advisor to its democracy movement in 2004-5. The period he has chosen for the novel is perhaps the most interesting and happening time in the country's post-war history. David Steinman exposes the evil deeds of TPLF and its intention to implementing agendas of some foreign countries in Ethiopia. The novel, Money, Blood and Conscience, uses the story of an American television producer's love affair with the TPLF officials during the Meles Zenawi dictatorship to educate Westerners about Ethiopia's struggle for human rights. Combining investigative journalism and fiction, the book describes a repressive, corrupt TPLF government at a war with its own people. The fictionalized account of the actual events which took place in the end of the last and beginning of this century in Ethiopia. The novel, based on a true story, portrays that while the West poured money into charities to fight starvation and poverty, the corrupt government diverted most of it for their own use. The book also elaborates how the UN offices and UN officials are working to intervene on domestic matters of a sovereign nation without legal ground. Critics attempting to connect the dots revealed the continuation of the very plot of money, blood and conscience with the current secret operation of foreign agents working for and supporting TPLF mission in Ethiopia. Some critics also note that TPLF cliques are jointly striving hard with its allies and some UN officials like Tedros Adhanom to create political conspiracy in Ethiopia. As part of this move, the book mentioned how the UN officials have fired Maureen Acheng, who is IOM Chief of Mission to Ethiopia and representative to the African Union, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the UN Population Fund's country representative in Ethiopia, Denia Gail, for exposing the secret agenda of some UN officials in Ethiopia, particularly that of extending the conflict in the North Ethiopia, doing spy works, and passing finance and military and medical equipment to TPLF terrorist groups. Steinman's novel provides a wonderful clue on how the TPLF manipulate and influence global communities' understanding about the realities in Ethiopia through people like World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom and others in many regional and global institutions who are actively working for TPLF mission of destabilizing Ethiopia and misinforming the international institutions and the international community, critics say.
China donates additional 800,000 Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine doses to the government of Ethiopia. Receiving the vaccines Sunday, Minister of Health Leah Taddese has dubbed the donation pivotal to further enhance the efforts to curb the coronavirus pandemic in Ethiopia. Kasaun Chane has the details.
The Ministry of Health received 800,000 Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine doses donated by the Chinese government. Health Minister Dr. Leah Taddese received the COVID-19 vaccine from the Chinese ambassador to Ethiopia, Zhao Zhan, at the Addis Ababa Bole International Airport.
First and foremost, I would like to express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to the people and the government of China for their continued support and solidarity in this COVID pandemic. Today we are, as you have heard the ambassador mentioning, there is additional donation from the government of China of 2 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines of Sinopharm, and today we are here to receive the 800,000 doses from these 2 million doses. And in this pandemic, these doses of vaccines will play a huge role in mitigating the pandemic as we continue to fight this pandemic both locally and globally. As a country, as you know, we are very committed to continue to access our population and protect our population from this pandemic by rolling out vaccines to all the regions in Ethiopia. And with that notion, we have been so far administering doses, more than 4 million doses of vaccines so far, but still, as a country of more than 110 million population, the need is huge, and this kind of support would really contribute a lot in mitigating this pandemic.
Ambassador of China to Ethiopia, Zhao Zhan, on the occasion said his government is always committed to supporting Ethiopia for the country to cope with the coronavirus.
China will donate another 2 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines to Ethiopia. And today, 800,000 doses have arrived for handover. The vaccines shall be distributed to political party officials, public servants, and people from communities in need and risks. Chinese President Xi Jinping has pledged to speed up the delivery of 2 billion doses of vaccines to the rest of the world throughout the year. In addition to the $100 million donation to the COVAX facility, another 100 million doses of vaccines will be delivered to developing countries this year. Today's donation is another important step to honor President Xi's commitment of making the vaccine a global public good, and also a major initiative to build a global community of health.
China has so far donated 1.5 million doses of vaccine to Ethiopia. Nearly 4 million people have been vaccinated against the coronavirus, according to the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back. President Erdogan said that the ambassadors of 10 nations, including the US, Germany and France, were no longer welcome in Turkey. In a televised speech, he said Turkey can no longer afford to host the envoys of the US, Germany, France, the Netherlands, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, Canada, Norway and New Zealand after they issued the joint call for Osman Kavala release. Take a listen to this.